On the bench is a Line 6 Pod HD 500X. It is a effects pedal board that does even quite a bit more than that, which is over my head. When I played guitar, we didn't have anything like this. But anyway, the problem with this unit is the 9-volt power adapter jack is broken. But in order to get to it, to replace it, a lot of stuff has to come apart. So there's not a lot of information out there on this particular unit. So you're kind of on your own and how this thing has to come apart. And there was a YouTube video that was kind of helpful. So I'm gonna leave all of the disassembly in, because it might be helpful to somebody else who has to deal with one of these. And I'm just going to speed through it so it doesn't take up all the time of the video. So we're going to speed through the rest of this disassembly and get down to replacing the input jack. So we need to get this thing unsoldered. I use my little solder sucker. I really need to get a better one. That one works okay, but I don't know. I don't like it that much. I'd like to get a better one. So just keep, sucking solder off the thing until it comes free. Which can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. But it will eventually come loose. And I think we've got it there. Yeah, there's the culprit right there. Sorry about the camera position. It's really not where it needs to be. So here's the new one. And we got to get that back in the same spot and get it soldered in. This is a fairly standard input jack, but one thing you have to make sure of is whether or not it's center pin positive or center pin negative. This unit is center pin negative, and if you don't know that and you just go buy a power supply from Amazon or something, most of the time those are going to be center pin positive, and that will not work with this and may actually damage something. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the pots, the jacks, and the switches, which is pretty much standard procedure for something like this, because you don't want to send it out saying it's fixed and then send it out with scratchy pots or crackly input jacks. So and it doesn't take very long with some good contact cleaner to do that. I'm not going to show every little bit of it, but this is just a common practice. So you can just get a regular 1/4-inch jack and spray some contact cleaner on it and work it in and out on the input jacks, and that really helps to make better contact. So let's get this thing back together. Working this board back into position is a bit of a challenge. On every input jack, and there's about 7 or 8 of them, there's a little plastic ring that goes on there on the inside, and it falls off of there if this thing isn't tilted up in the back when you try to work it in, because the back of the board has to be lifted to get the front of the board down into where it has to be, and those little rings fall off. So I've got it setting up on a spool of wire, and so once you get it located where you need to get it located, then just got a lot of screws that have to go in, and make sure you check the back panel real good to make sure everything is seated properly and in the right position before you start cranking stuff down. So I want to get a little silicone on this connector because it's a little loose. It's not that loose, but it'll work its way off of there. So that's the way it was on there. I had to clean all that off to get it apart, but so I'm just going to put a little silicone on each end to help keep it together so it doesn't rattle off of there. Got some of the old stuff still trying to hang on. I can't get it all off of there. It's kind of a down in a hole, but it doesn't matter as long as I get some good stuff in there to replace it. Keep that connector together. And silicone works great for stuff like that. So I'll finish putting some of the exterior screws in place. There are a lot of them that were missing that I've had to find replacements for. Everywhere where there is a connector that passes through that panel, it needs to be solidly connected to the panel, either with screws or like on these input jacks, they're locked in with the nut that goes on the outside. Because if you don't, every time you plug something in, you're putting pressure on that PC board. And those solder joints can only handle so much of that. The input jack is supported by the PC board, but that's not what broke it. Apparently a guitar fell over and crashed into the back of the pedal board, breaking the plug and the jack. That XLR microphone jack is a good example. Those screws really do need to be in there. And there was a couple of these jacks where those screws were missing. And you could damage the PC board if you don't have those securely fastened to the back panel. So we're going to put the back panel on, but first this support has to go in there. And you have to kind of leave it loose for now, because if you attach it to the back panel and try to put it in, it won't allow you to work the panel into position, because it has to be worked in from end to end. It has to be able to slide, probably 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. That support just keeps from having the face of the stomp board flexing when you're pushing on pedals and stuff like that. So it carries the load all the way to the back panel, and there's a couple of rubber feet that go right there to transfer whatever your pressure is from your foot, to the stage or your floor or however you're using it. There were only 4 of these little rubber feet on here when I took it apart. So I'm kind of waiting on the customer to let me know if they want me to go ahead and get, it needs 8, so I'll probably just have to order 8, because I'm not going to get the exact same thickness. So I need to replace them all at some point, and it keeps this thing from wobbling around. You can see the corners are not supported on the bottom. I've got a few more screws to put in for that LCD panel, and then I'll start putting in the knobs. So once I get all those put back on, we'll be ready to do a final test on it. So I'll plug in the adapter and do a quick power on test, and then that's pretty much it. I've done what they asked me to do, which is to replace that input, that 9-volt input. Yeah, I can't really check out all the functions and everything that this does, because I don't know how to use it. So that pretty much wraps up a fairly simple repair job, and I appreciate you watching the video.